Hello, and welcome to another Crime Atlas upload. I hope everyone is safe and well. Today, we are bringing you a compelling case that hasn't been covered much in the true crime space. It's a story that reminds us of how fragile life can be. 1 minute we're above ground, full of hope and ambitions, and in an instant, everything can change. Before we get into it, I want to kick things off with a huge thank you for the amazing response to last week's call to action. Our video on the Jennifer Rothwell story saw a 53% boost in views compared to our recent uploads, and it's all because of your engagement. Before I started this YouTube journey, I used to watch a ton of videos from channels like JCS and That Chapter. And one thing stood out. Nearly every host asked viewers to like, comment, subscribe, or smash the notification bell, as they say. It made sense. Of course, they want their channels to grow. I never did the verbal call to action because my thought process was, just make the best content you know how, the rest should take care of itself. While that is true to some extent, I didn't fully appreciate how critical engagement is to the algorithm. I also failed to consider that a lot of viewers would be more than happy to take an action to support their favorite creators if you only take the time to explain how and why those simple efforts help. By taking those actions, you are directing the algorithm rather than the other way around. And you proved that last week, so thank you for being such an incredible community. So going forward, I will consistently ask folks to like, comment, subscribe, or I can't say smash, sorry, it's not me, or click on the notification bell if it's in your heart to do so. Okay, with that said, let's switch gears and move on to our story. Siblings. They usually grow up under the same roof, they share the same parents, and often navigate life side by side. Yet somehow they can end up on entirely different paths. Maybe you've seen it in your own family. One sibling may be the academic overachiever, while another pours their heart into athletics, art, business, or something completely unexpected. Studies show that these differences come down to more than just upbringing. Genetics, personality, unique experiences, and other external factors can shape them. It's what makes family dynamics so captivating. Angeli and Omalie Dominguez couldn't have been more different, and those differences would ultimately lead to tragedy. By March 2022, the sisters were on vastly different paths. Omalie was a bright, ambitious young woman with a promising future ahead of her, driven by a desire to make a difference. Angeli, while also full of promise, was battling inner demons, her life unraveling in ways that friends and family struggled to comprehend. Their lives were about to intersect in the most painful way imaginable, setting off a chain of events that would leave an entire community shaken. Let's dive in. This story takes us to Little Ferry, New Jersey, a small borough in Bergen County. Known for its quiet streets and suburban charm, Little Ferry offers a peaceful retreat from the hustle and bustle of nearby New York City. You can find tree-lined neighborhoods, local eateries, and a strong sense of community pride, making it an inviting place to live and raise a family. Crime in Little Ferry is relatively low compared to the national average, and residents generally enjoy a feeling of safety and stability. But in the spring of 2022, this peaceful suburb was rocked by a horrifying event that would leave its residents stunned and heartbroken.
Now to a story gaining national attention, and one we first told you about at 10 last night. A 21-year-old nursing student shot and killed by her pregnant sister. Tonight we hear from the suspect's fiance, who says he tried desperately to get the attention of police before it was too late.
Change was on the horizon in the spring of 2022 for 27-year-old Angeli Dominguez, and it seemed to be for the better. She had found love in Jacksonville, Florida, where she resided, and was engaged to be married. She was also 5 months pregnant with her baby due in July. Angeli's life before pregnancy had been somewhat nomadic, with many addresses between New Jersey and Florida, a party girl lifestyle, a stint in college, and a lack of stable employment. While the future held the promise of marriage and motherhood, there were also troubling signs. On Friday, March 18, 2022, Angeli was transported to a local hospital for psychiatric evaluation under Florida's Baker Act. This law allows individuals to be detained involuntarily for up to 72 hours for mental health assessment if they are deemed a danger to themselves or others. Details are limited since medical records are not public, but according to police records, her fiancé requested a psychiatric intervention for her at a residence in Jacksonville. A doctor evaluated Angeli and reportedly deemed her stable enough to be discharged the following day. However, her release, coupled with unresolved anger toward her fiancé, only worsened an already fragile situation. 2 days later, on March 21st, Angeli's fiancé noticed his white Ford Mustang was missing and he could not contact Angeli. He was concerned as there were multiple firearms in the trunk, and based on GPS tracking of her cell phone, she was headed northbound on I-95. The following day, officers with the Little Ferry Police Department responded to a report of a stabbing at a home on Sand Hill Court. When the Little Ferry police arrived at the home on Sand Hill Court at around 4 p.m., a teenage boy answered the door and said, "She's inside, she's shot." Upon entry, they discovered a young woman deceased with a gunshot wound to the head. She was identified as 21-year-old Omalie Dominguez. The suspect had already fled the scene. The boy, Omalie's younger brother, told police he had returned home from school that afternoon and overheard his sisters, Omalie and Angeli, talking in another room. According to him, the conversation became heated after Angeli asked Omalie for money to pay for a hotel room, and Omalie refused, allegedly stating, according to a neighbor, "I've given you enough money." Moments later, the boy heard what sounded like a gunshot. When he entered the living room, he found Omalie slumped over on the couch. In a surreal and chilling moment, he looked up to find Angeli staring directly at him. After a brief moment, she fled the house. Ring camera footage captured Angeli leaving the home with a weapon in hand, based on the affidavit. However, a slightly different version of events was reported by Omalie's mother in an article published by the Herald on April 5, 2022, authored by Liam Quinn. According to Ms. Dominguez, she was at work when Angeli arrived at the house unannounced. Angeli brought up staying at a hotel, but Ms. Dominguez told her she was at work and would address it later. Shortly after, Angeli retrieved a gun from her car and shot her sister. Ms. Dominguez stated, "At no point was this expected. There was no fight or battle or huge argument." Later that evening, New Jersey State Police apprehended Angeli in her fiancé's vehicle nearly 90 miles away from the crime scene. At the time of her arrest, police seized 5 firearms from the trunk of the car. Angeli was taken into custody and charged with murder, possession of a firearm for an unlawful purpose, and hindering her own apprehension. Now, before we delve into the tragic events of March 22nd, it's important to understand who these two women were, their personalities, ambitions, and the circumstances that shaped them. This glimpse into their backgrounds can offer vital context, even if only on a surface level.
Oh my god, these people are watching us. Do you like I care? You don't care about these people? Well, I care about you guys. Yeah, holla.
A video uploaded to YouTube by her older sister Angeli perfectly captures the essence of then 12-year-old Omalie Dominguez, bright, energetic, and full of life. According to friends and family, 21-year-old Omalie grew into a person who inspired everyone around her. Affectionately called the Scholar by her family, the nickname was well earned through her academic excellence and ambitious dreams for the future. Born in Union City, New Jersey, Omalie was brought up in a family that highly valued education. She graduated from Union City High School as a cheerleader, bringing that same enthusiasm and dedication into everything she did. Upon graduating, Omalie set her sights on a nursing career, a calling inspired by her compassion and desire to make a difference. She enrolled at William Patterson University, where she thrived as a nursing student, maintaining an impressive 3.9 GPA. Omalie was also a Mu Sigma Upsilon sorority member and was just months away from earning her degree. In addition to her demanding studies, she worked as an admissions assistant at the university. Known for being highly organized, she kept a meticulous planner and an immaculate room, qualities that reflected her disciplined and focused nature. Omalie's family described her as someone who loved life and people, always striving to uplift those around her. For her, nursing was more than a career goal. It was a way to channel her kindness and leave a positive mark on the world. Tragically, Omalie would never see her dreams fulfilled, as what seemed like a common dispute turned into an unimaginable nightmare.
What's Gucci, motherfuckers? Look at this. Yo, so don't be acting like you're trying to be friends with someone, trying to pamper them and hear them out and shit, when really you're just being a hating asshole, mommy. Like, if you can't handle seeing me and like seeing this sexy body, listen, just don't talk to me.
Angeli Dominguez was born in February 1995 and spent most of her life in New Jersey before settling in Jacksonville, Florida. Friends and family described her as someone who lived life with unapologetic energy. Like many millennials, Angeli was a prolific social media user, giving a sneak peek into what made her tick. It was apparent from her many posts that Angeli loved music, especially EDM and hip-hop. Also, she wasn't shy about her party girl side. She often posted about the concerts she attended, showing off bold outfits and the electric energy of the nightlife she thrived in. It was more than a hobby. She earned income as a dancer at nightclubs, raves, and other large events. She also had an OnlyFans account, though how involved she was with it remains unclear. But Angeli also had a soft, caring side that came through in her passion for the environment and her respect for all living things. In the fall of 2015, while attending Rutgers University, Angeli displayed her potential by producing a 21-page research paper with an accompanying video titled Toxins in Cosmetics. The paper discusses what can be done to get safer cosmetic products on the market. It is unclear if she finished her degree. What is clear is that she was an intellectually curious individual who was not afraid to think for herself. If something didn't align with her own sense of right and wrong, she wouldn't just go along with it. She lived by her own rules, plain and simple, as attested to by the 40 traffic violations she has racked up over the years. In her social media posts, Angeli displayed a mix of boldness, grittiness, compassion, and authenticity. Whether she was the life of the party or championing a cause she believed in, she was someone who lived life on her own terms, carefree and always true to herself. Following Omali's tragic death, additional details surfaced about Angeli and the events leading up to her actions. On March 18th, an incident occurred at the home where she and her fiancé, Tony Miranda, resided. According to a police report, Tony called law enforcement out of concern for Angeli's behavior, stating that she posed a threat to herself. Tony informed officers that Angeli had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia but was not taking her prescribed medication or seeking treatment due to her pregnancy. He noted she uses marijuana with a medical card. Over the past 6 months, her condition had worsened, marked by increasing verbal aggression and, at times, physical aggression toward him and his mother. Tony added that her behavior had led to prolonged unemployment and their eventual eviction from the Jacksonville home they shared with his mother. The officer who interacted with Angeli observed that her speech was disorganized with incoherent sentence structure and a lack of logical flow in her statements. She was unable to correctly identify the day of the week, and her verbal responses were noted to be largely devoid of meaningful content. This is the incident in which the Baker Act was invoked. Immediately after her release, she was angry with Tony for having her hospitalized while pregnant. The day before the shooting, Tony contacted police in Jacksonville. He reported that his mentally unstable fiancée had stolen his white Ford Mustang and firearms and was headed to New Jersey. He spoke with a local news crew after. The Bayonne and Jacksonville police departments conducted internal investigations into their respective interactions with Tony Miranda. In official statements, both departments concluded that their officers acted within policy and procedures. However, they acknowledged that officers could have handled the situations more urgently. As a result, the departments committed to reviewing protocols to identify areas for improvement moving forward. Meanwhile, Angeli Dominguez faces a potential sentence of 30 years to life in prison if convicted of first-degree murder. According to a published report, the defense proposed a plea agreement to the prosecution. Under the deal, Angeli would have pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of second-degree manslaughter with an 8-year prison term. However, the prosecution rejected the offer, opting to pursue the more serious charges in court. The Crime Atlas has been following this case closely for months. A final disposition conference, originally scheduled for Friday, January 17, 2025, was intended to determine whether the case could be resolved without going to trial. For those unfamiliar, a final disposition conference serves as the court's last opportunity to negotiate a plea deal or resolve any outstanding issues. If no agreement is reached and there are no valid reasons for further delays, the case proceeds to trial. But, to no surprise, a continuance was granted, postponing the hearing to February 25th. Court hearings can be delayed for many reasons, such as requests for additional time to review the case, scheduling conflicts, witness unavailability, or the appointment of new legal counsel. Since there's no guarantee the February date will not also be postponed, we've decided to release this video now. As always, we'll keep you updated with a community post once there is some resolution or the case heads to trial. The tragic loss of Omalie Dominguez is a wound that continues to cut deeply for her family, friends, and community. She was a young woman full of promise, compassion, and determination, a scholar with dreams of making a difference in the world as a nurse. For those closest to her, the grief is compounded by the lingering question: why? What drove Angeli, her sister, to commit such a devastating act? Speculation can only go so far. The truth is, only Angeli knows the motive behind her actions. However, with a trial ahead and her future at stake, it's unlikely she will be forthright about her reasons, as doing so could risk further jeopardizing her defense. This leaves the family and community searching for answers they may never fully receive. And yet, even in the face of such heartbreak, there are moments that remind us of resilience and hope. Omalie's legacy lives on in the memories she created and the lives she touched. Her family's courage to speak out, to honor her dreams, and to continue advocating for mental health awareness ensures that her story is not defined by its tragic end, but by the light she brought to those around her. The case of Omalie Dominguez reminds us of life's fragility and the complexity of relationships, essential reasons to seek understanding, offer compassion, and support those struggling with mental health issues. After all, the empathy you show could be the very thing that prevents a situation from escalating out of control. What are your thoughts on this case? All things considered, what do you think should be the proper sentence for Angeli Dominguez? Feel free to share your thoughts below.